Daly. The advisory board of the Gator Community School Corporation is about to begin at 6 o'clock. We've been called to order. Would you stand with me for the pledge of allegiance, please? At this time, we'll have a roll call.
Mr. Buggs?
Present.
Ms. Carter? Here. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Hickey?
Here.
Ms. Reedus? Here. Mr. Tolliver? And Mr. Coleman?
Present.
We have quorum, 6 present and 1 absent.
The 6th president, 1 absent. We have a quorum to do the official business of the Gator Community School Corporation Advisory Board. The chair will accept motion to accept the agenda.
So move.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we accept the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. At this time, we're going to have prayer, so that anyone is offended about the prayer at this time, you may exit the room. If not, we will stand and have prayer. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, God. We ask that you will lead and that you will guide our steps. Father, we ask that you will allow this community, this Gary School Corporation, to obtain favor. Favor in which we will have resources. Favor in which our community will thrive. Favor in which we will have finances. God, we can only do it by your power. So God, we ask your hedge of protection around every student now, around every teacher, around every staff member now. And we ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Carter, for that wonderful prayer. At this time, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes for March 12th, 2019 and June 11th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the agenda for March 12th, 2019 and June 11th, 2019. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The agenda has been accepted. Mr. Bailey, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, sir, we do, President. First correspondence. Operation Help Keep Me Warm for the winter has begun. Anyone interested in donating can visit any faith center at all our schools. We are accepting the following items: hats, gloves, scarves, socks for girls and boys, and gently used or in need of coats. For everyone who has already donated, thank you, and thank you. If you have any questions, please contact Ms. Foster at area code 219-881-5466. All donations are for the students of this district. The West Side Theater Guild presents The Lion King Jr. The show dates are December 12th, 13th, 14th, 19th, 20th, and the 21st. The show begins each night at 7 p.m. Also, December 15th and the 22nd at 4 p.m. Ticket price is $10. For ticket information, please call area code 219-390-9784. This concludes our correspondence for the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Buggs,
Yes, sir. Please.
can I add something on to the correspondence?
Yes, you may.
Calumet Township Trustee's Office, which is 610 Connecticut, they will be distributing coats as well. And the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity on the 21st of this month at St. Mary, St. Monica's Church auditorium, they will distribute coats and hats as well.
Excuse me, what's the name of the church?
St. Monica, St. Luke.
Is that it, Mr. Speaker?
That's it, Mr. Brooks, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The next item is the President's report. But before I do the President's report, I would like to acknowledge a young lady from this community, Miss Mary McGee, also known as Merciless Mary McGee, who's a boxer. She has achieved history by being the first female boxer from the city of Gary to win a world title. Now, I have said time and time again, this young lady has not received the respect of this community. All the other communities are in love with her, do all kind of accolades, but this city has not, and she's been winning championships over the years. Now she's won a world title. So from the Board of Trustees, the advisory Board of Trustees, to Ms. Merciless Mary McGee, we salute you, we thank you, we love you, and sometime in the near future, we want to have something for you. And I would suggest that maybe somebody from the school corporation should invite you to the schools to talk to our young children and provide a little stipend, because you are indeed a role model, and you have made history over and over again, and now to become a world champion. The world champion. That is an accomplishment. So, thank you very much. I hate to say that because I want her to know that there are some people in this city that appreciate what she's done over the years and what she's went through, and she's still standing tall and smiling. So thank you, we salute you. Ms. Mary Merciless Mary McGee. We love you. Thank you. Now I'm going to give the President's report. It may be a little bit lengthy, but I'm going to explain to the public some things that must be said. As you know, we want to meet every 3 months. And in those 3 months, there's a lot of things that transpire. We have parents and citizens calling us about different complaints, about different things going on in the district. However, as you all know, we are an advisory group. We are not the Board of Trustees. We don't have any power or authority to do anything. So normally what happens in a situation like that, I pass it on to the emergency manager, Dr. Pete Rodriguez. Also, there has been some questions from the community and some political leaders as to our board meetings not being aired. That is not something that was under my immediate control. The last time that it was aired, I will apologize, because understand, I didn't see it myself, but I understand that there was no caption, it didn't say school board, it didn't have a date on it. But when I inquired about it, it said that was the instruction that was given by the Gary Community School Corporation. However, the meeting was about 3 hours long, and I understand that some of y'all only saw an hour and 20 minutes of it. That editing or whatever happened was not, I had nothing to do with the advisory board. So I just wanted to let you all know that the issue was addressed, and hopefully it has been resolved. Now, the thing I want to get into today, we had scheduled and agreed by way of Dr. Pete to have all of the department heads to come before you tonight and give you a synopsis of their departments, what their goals were, what their successes were, and what their challenges were, if any, and was to answer any questions from the board. Well, at the last minute, Dr. Pete sent me an email saying that he canceled it, as a matter of fact, and said that he would reschedule it at the Emergency Managers Forum. Now, the reason I mention that is because we had mutually agreed that this would be beneficial and very transparent to the community to know what each department is doing, what they're doing, if they have any challenges, and so that you could hear from them. However, that won't happen. Now, at the community forum, and this is something I also discussed with Dr. P at his community forum once a month, there's not going to be that many people there. Therefore, the information that you would have gotten tonight won't be forthcoming. And I think that's bad because it's not being transparent, and this would have been an ideal time.
Mr. Bugs, if I may, please.
No, sir. This would have been an ideal time to bring that to your attention. Now, what I want to do before I go in depth into my report, so there won't be any misunderstandings, I want to read you some emails that have transpired, because the reason I'm saying it, because I think it's very important. And this email came from Dr. Mariquez. And it says, this email was documented our phone conversation this morning, 8:37 a.m. During this conversation, you stated you had received information from one of my administrators that the directors were being asked to present the upcoming December at the upcoming December 10, 2019 advisory board meeting. Number one, I never said that I spoke to any of these administrators, so I just want to make that clear. I did not. I stated to you that the directors were asked to do a short presentation outlining their department, as well as department goals, challenges, and successes. I also asked that they be ready to answer the advisory board questions that evening as well. You asked what authority I had to place this on the agenda without your permission. I stated to you that you have asked for reports from departments. Actually, during our November 12th meeting with Ms. Carter and Dr. Perez Seaman, we agreed that the department reports would be helpful and that we would have the department report on the December meeting. Also during our phone call, I referred to the email by Ms. Carter. What I asked was, where on the agenda? Because that was one other situation where tonight Dr. Mariquez was going to have some students put on a robotics presentation. He mentioned on the radio and also at a restaurant in the public. But what he had failed to do was mention to anybody on the school board on being the president. I didn't know that. And the public must know that this one meeting that we have every 3 months is our meeting per House Bill 1315. So I'm going to make that clear. We do try to be transparent as possible, and the only thing that we can do, since we have no authority, no input in how your children are being educated, it is up to me and this board to bring you the facts and you make your own decision. I'm not going to make any decisions. I'm just going to give it to you as it is. Now, I read that because I wanted to be very clear as to what transpired, and this is my response to Dr. Mariquez. Good morning, Dr. Mariquez. Thank you for your request for clarification about the advisory board meeting on December 10th. Agenda items. Apparently there was some miscommunication between what Ms. Carter emailed you and what I was expecting. Be that as it may, here is my official reply. For several months, Ms. Carter and I have requested that you and Ms. Nakia Douglas have each department head directly submit a written report outlining 4 identifiable goals that they wish to achieve this school year and forward, of what they intend to accomplish, to include all successes and challenges with emphasis on improving academics, enrollment, debt reduction, and create a safe and secure learning environment. We would like to have that in writing prior to the advisory board meeting, which is tonight. We don't have that. We requested this information at the beginning of the school year and several times thereafter, but the Gary Community School Corporation never provided it. Since I am the only one not aware that each department head was to present a 5-minute or more verbal presentation rather than submitting a written report with questions to follow if needed. Therefore, after reviewing the email Ms. Carter sent to you, I will let it proceed as you have directed so that each department can inform the public about his or her department's duties and new initiatives implemented, if any. I concur with you that this is a great opportunity to educate the public community of what MGT is doing in their district by being totally transparent. I would request, however, that each question on the email be answered first, that they be agreed to address any other information they deem applicable. But the question we presented should be addressed first. The list of directors will be all those you met with and advised about giving a brief presentation to the advisory board and answer any questions from the advisory board members as you had proposed. I am aware there may be some names not listed on the initial email, but I agree this end of the year meeting would be an excellent opportunity to educate the community. Now, some of the questions that we had requested that each department head answer was: describe your responsibilities of the Gary Community School Corporation as you know them. How many employees are you responsible for? Explain your plan on how the Gary Community School Corporation will gain stability under your leadership. What do you have already in place to create a balanced budget? Now, we identified about several departments. What every department head. It was the CFO, the fellow program director, the phase liaison, the operation buildings and grounds, the maintenance, transportation, special populations, Sheriff Britton McCray, and community education development. Now, those are the ones, the department head that we had identified that we wanted them to tell you about their departments. Now, I understand when Dr. Pete met with his directors, he met with all of the department heads, which was even better. Because, to be honest with you, we, the advisory board, we don't know what everybody's doing. There was a time on the other administrations when we knew each department head what they were doing, when somebody was terminated, when somebody was hired, where they came from, and the board was aware. But then, since we became the advisory board, we have not gotten that. The other thing I'd like to bring to your attention is that, not knowing this information, I did a request for public records October the 9th, 2019. Today is 10 December 2019. I have not, I repeat, have not received the information I requested. I did receive some information, but it was not what I specified on the request form. Therefore, it's like I haven't received anything. And the reason for that information, ladies and gentlemen, is that if in the event that MGT should finish their contract or leave the area, and if in the event that authority is bestowed back to this board, that this board would have some knowledge of what is going on financially, academically, in all aspects of the Gary Community School Corporation. I think we should know that, because it would be unfair for us who have elected us if they leave and just us a person and we don't know. We don't know what the debt is, we don't know this, we don't be getting this information, we're getting people that's in place that's not really qualified, in my personal opinion, and it's really frustrating. So I don't want anybody to think that we're adversarial against the administration. It's just that when things don't come through and being transparent and working together, we have a problem. But again, we were elected to look out for the best interests of your children and you, and to keep you informed. So as an advisory board president and this board, we intend to do just that. So I don't want anybody to take it as being anti or negative. I'm just telling you the truth. You can make your own decisions. Now, having said that, in the president's report, there is no secret that we went to the Special Unit Appeals Board meeting, and at that time, Mr. Eric Perry stated that the enrollment was down by, I think, 179 students. 176, excuse me. And as you all know, the last meeting I have been complaining about and have some concerns about Ms. Nakia Douglas having, wearing three hats, so to speak, that of deputy superintendent, that of the academic chief, the chief academic officer, and of the director of federal programs. Now, if in fact that the academics is down and people are leaving the district for whatever reason, and the grading is down, then I think 100% should be focused on academics. You shouldn't have to be trying to do three jobs because, as I said, time and time again, DUAP had already budgeted each position to stand alone. Each position has enough responsibilities to keep one person busy for a year. That's why they had to contract each one of them. But that too, we raised the issue with administrators of the MGT upper echelon and as well as DUAP and the State Board of Education. And we got basically the runaround. State Board of Education said they had nothing to do with it. MGT said that we should go to DUAP. DUAP said, no, that's not our issue, go to MGT. So, having said that, we're going around in circles. And the other thing that we have an issue with this board is that to have a meeting, we like to know all of the information in its entirety before we come to you. We have requested that the administration provide all of the invoices in the months between, since we only meet every 3 months, in the months between, and provide it in a timely fashion before the meeting. Now, they will provide it, but then we were asked to, number one, print it out on our computer. Number two, come pick it up at the administration office. I personally have an issue with that because number one, when we became the advisory board, the little $112 stipend they was getting was deleted, per diem as they call it, per diem, excuse me. So I think it's unfair to ask this voluntary board to incorporate extra expenses when this information had been provided to us in a packet form sometime a week before the meeting and no charge. So when we come to you, we should have all this information in case we have a question. That's why. Because ladies and gentlemen, I understand, I'm confused. I'm the president. I'm confused as to where we are financially. Now, tonight we're going to hear from the chief financial officer, and we have some questions for her. There are some things that seem to be duplicating each other, and there's some finances that hasn't been accounted for, or hadn't been addressed, and I don't know who else to ask, but it will be asked tonight. So I'm going to try to cut my president's report off at that point. I just wanted to bring you up to date so that you would know what I know when I know it. And if there's some questions that you all have tonight, any of your parents or whatever, tonight would be the time to ask because the school board is the advisory board. We are not making any decisions. We can't make any decisions by law. The people that make those decisions about your children or your children's issues will be here tonight, so you can ask them directly. So having done that, I'm going to finish my president's report. If there be any questions from the board, if not, then I'm going to turn it over to the deputy superintendent of Women. We're going to have the deputy superintendent, Ms. Nakia Douglas, present her report.
I've got it this evening, Mr. Bugs. Ms. Douglas is home ill. She's been out for a couple of days, but she is set to return hopefully in the next couple of days.
Okay.
She did share some information with me, if I may, regarding some of the work that's being done in the curriculum department. The Gary Community School Corporation has developed a number of new initiatives as we work to create a goal-driven, high-achieving district. It is the goal of the curriculum department to create opportunities for students and staff to have access to necessary resources that will support their academic achievement. During the month of November, the curriculum department has been involved in many things, some of which include the development and implementation of Cycle 3 Common Core Assessment or Common Assessments, data disaggregation to provide targeted intervention for students, individual and small group instruction at Beveridge Elementary School. The Gary Performance Summit was led by Dr. Ron Sandlin, the Senior Director of School Performance and Transformation at the Indiana State Board of Education. There's been principal coaching and evaluation that has taken place. The implementation of learning of life curriculum developed by the Boy Scouts of America and the K-12 social emotional learning program for all students. Development of discipline task force to lead social emotional learning in all schools. The implementation of the G Suite, Google Classroom, including professional development for opportunities for staff. The development of technology teacher task force to facilitate the e-learning, which e-learning days is something that we'll talk about. We need to have some training in place for teachers to do that. Upcoming activities, career pathway, it's a K-12 progression presented by WASED. That training is taking place this Friday. And it will provide college and career and technical pathways for students. Again, Ms. Douglas apologizes for not being able to attend, but that's a brief summary of some of the things that she's going on. I can tell you that visiting the curriculum department daily, they do, and they are working very hard on disaggregating data to improve student instruction, identifying areas of weakness and critical concerns. So you know how to target your instruction and where to focus your remediation for students. So,
Dr. Pete,
yes, sir.
couldn't you have made a copy for the board, because you read off a lot of stuff, and if we had any questions, we can't remember. I know I can't, speaking for myself. We can't remember all that because I said the same thing to Mr. Little once he got up and read a report, and you know that you're coming before the board, we should be given a copy. That's why we request a written report prior to, so that we can, if we have any
That's why
questions.
the board packets were delivered on Friday, and Ms. Douglas had planned on attending, but was not able to, so I apologize.
Dr. Pete,
Yes, sir.
isn't Karen Ramsey over curriculum now?
Say it again?
Karen Ramsey, is she over curriculum?
Yeah, she's the director of elementary education. Yes.
Okay, I was wondering why she is not here tonight. Okay.
Well, she's on with academics, Ms. Zakia Douglas,
Yeah.
but any questions, Dr. Pete, before you leave? Any board members have any questions for the report
Mr.
sent by
President,
Ms. Douglas?
Mr. President.
Yes.
I would like to ask a question of Dr. Pete.
Yes, ma'am.
I know Ms. Douglas is not here. However, I'm going to assume you know something about what's going on with her department. So far as the Boys and Girls Club, is that what you mentioned?
I mentioned the Boy Scouts of America.
Yes, Boy Scouts of America and the Teachers Task Force. How effective is that? And is there strong participation? And what benchmarks are you using to measure if it is successful?
Boys and Girls Club is very successful, and that's part of the partnership that Ms. Douglas worked on to develop the WASED connection. And as far as the Teachers Task Force, involving our teachers in decision-making is critical and key. And we believe, and you can ask the teachers, and my approach is to receive their input, talk with them, what do you need as far as professional development, assistance in the classroom. So that's what we're doing. And how do we measure that? We get their feedback. What do you need? How do you need it? What can we do to provide you the additional services?
Yes, I do understand that the Boys Club is successful, but I'm asking, one, about participation, and what is the Gary School Corporation, what are those students to get out of? Do we have students participate? Are there?
They've been involved in the at McCullough School for some time. And so that's basically when, obviously when it was an all-girls academy, expanding it, it's boys and girls. So it involves technology. It's part of the STEM program and helping to drive it down into the elementary schools.
Now, you do know you did not answer any of those questions, right? But, okay,
I'm trying to answer your question as best I can.
I'm asking,
What are you asking specifically?
do we even have students that are participating?
Yes,
How many? Do you know?
I don't have that number on the top of my head.
Is there a benchmark? Is there something we're gonna measure to see if this has been effective for our students?
Yes, ma'am. What has been in place is the program at McCullough. What we are starting this year is expanding it this year, and that's part of the training that's taking place this Friday for the teachers and at the administration building. Friday the 13th, this Friday, you're welcome to attend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have some questions. I'll just wait for the board. You're giving a report for the deputy superintendent and the chief academic officer, right?
Pardon?
You're giving a report from Ms. Douglas for the deputy superintendent and as the chief academic officer.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to see when to ask this question. Now, the Boys and Girls Club y'all just talking about, is that considered something like an extracurricular activity,
That's an academic.
academic,
It's part of STEM education.
or STEM education? The question that I wanted to ask, there's been some reports that there's been a shortage of teachers, and sometimes, if I remember correctly, there was 45 vacancies on the 19 subs, and that happens all up on a regular basis. So my question would be academically, hypothetically, if this was to continue, you only got 19 subs, what about how those students being educated, because there's no continuity? Because understand some teachers don't need a lesson plan like they used to do in the days of old. The teachers were absent, they had a lesson plan so the continuity of learning could continue. With that not being done, and you may have a different sub every day, then how do you expect the students to take a test on their material which they have not gone over it? And we still operating a shortage of teachers. And we also talked about the partnership Ms. Douglas was talking about from some students from Purdue. They are not licensed teachers, so, but I don't go to license not as long as enough students are getting an education. But in that scenario, what are we gonna do about it? You got 45 vacancies, 19 subs, so what about?
Well, I know we've been interviewing substitutes. Ms. Ramsey has been interviewing and hiring. Ms. Gibbons has, the curriculum department has, and we're adding subs as quickly as we can. We're working hard to recruit, advertise, get it out as best that we can. I see Ms. Reed is not shaking her head here. It's a struggle. It's a struggle for all districts to attract substitutes as well as teachers. It's very clear, it's been in the papers, there's a shortage in education of majors, there's a shortage in education of substitutes. It's become very competitive. School districts up the ante, they increase the incentive to attract teachers. They raise the cost of subs. You know, we pay $100 a day. There are other districts that are paying $115, $120 a day. And people are going to follow the money to increase that.
Well, they just recently had 2 schools, I understand, to close in Hammond. 2 schools, so if they have teachers there, why can't you request those teachers?
We did.
Also, there were some teachers that do have, prior to you coming here, sort of made us to get rid of them, so to speak. And some of those teachers wanted to come back, they're right here in Gary, and they have not been contacted, but my concern still is, I know you say you're working on it, but in the meantime, those students are not being educated, so how do you expect them to pass any kind of exam?
I don't disagree with you, and if there's let's read this. I know that we have contacted other districts about sharing subs. We've contacted other districts that if you are reducing staff, briefing teachers, send us their name, send us their contact information. Mr. Bugs, if you have the silver bullet on that, I'll take it and listen to it, because if you got the answer, I'll do it. We are trying everything that we possibly can.
I'm not trying to keep talking about the people, I'm not being paid millions of dollars to have the answers. If I was, I would have the answers, because if you pay the teachers enough money, then they would be here. I mean, they're the lowest paid in the state, but I don't want to get off of that issue. I would want to, Ms.
I ain't
Davis?
showing up for 30
All I wanted to say is that at every grade level, there are 3 to 4 classes, and they're all working on the same curriculum. So if a teacher is absent, then they split those kids up to those teachers, and they're still learning. So sometimes that happens if you don't have a sub. Another thing is that you have a lot like me who are retired teachers who have come back, who are licensed and are working. But you cannot make a person want to teach, Mr. Bucks. It's just like that. We have a different group of children, and a lot of people just don't want to come. It's wide open.
And Ms.
If you
Reeves,
if you go on the website, the jobs are open.
if there's no teacher there, I'm concerned about the students getting
I
education,
just told you what happened.
you know.
About the
And if you got structure in your classroom, they'll listen to you and do what you say.
Excuse me, there will be no comments from the audience.
Mr. Boggs, if you
Yeah.
listen to what Ms. Rita said, what we do is we take the class, the students, if there are 15 kids, 20 kids, we divide them up into the other rooms. Is it the best scenario? Absolutely not. Would the best scenario be to have a teacher in that classroom? Absolutely. But I will say, I will use this as an opportunity for public service announcement. Gary Community School Corporation is in search of teachers and substitutes, and you can call 881-5401. That's my office. Call that number, and you know what? This is an opportunity. This is on the radio, the GVE. It's on the TV. There might be some community folks out there that say, "Hey, we pay $100 a day for substitute teachers. Let's use this as an opportunity to find some folks in the community that understand our children, that understand our families and our parents, and can come in and help us out. Even if it's 1 day a week, if you can't do it 5 days, if you can go 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, all 5, we're open for business. Thank you.
Now, board members have any questions? Mr. Coleman? Mr. Bailey? Okay, thank you, sir. The next item is the Chief Operations and Chief Finance Officer, Ms. Lisa Rosenko.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
I have a packet, if it's okay, I'll distribute it. So this evening, I wanted to present on the deficit. In your packet, you'll notice on the first sheet, I've outlined in detail our debt. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice that I put an analysis of our long-term and short-term debt. As a total, for 2017, we had $106,629,762. That was both for principal and interest. And that is the end of our fiscal year, so that's the timeline in which our Form 9 comes out. You'll see in the next year, our debt ends with $108,639,143, and that is plus the interest and the principal. And then our long-term debt for 2019 is $103,246,976. So there's a reduction in our long-term debt. As a total, with our long-term and our short-term debt, we have a reduction as well. At the end of 2017, we had a total of $123,166,255. At the end of 2018, we had $112,411,041. And at the end of 2019, we had a total of $104,485,698. So from 2017 to 2018, the reduction was $10,755,214. From 2018 to 2019, we had a reduction of $975,000. Hold on a second. My numbers didn't print well. 347 and 37,000 for a total of, for the 2-year span of 2017 to 2019, we had a total reduction of $18,680,557. So over the 3-year term of our outstanding debt, there's been a significant reduction. Following the pages, you'll notice on page 3 is the Form 9. This is something that all schools are required to submit to the Department of Ed. You'll notice the documentation to back up the information on my spreadsheet. There's one for each year. You'll notice on page 4, I've included the detailed information for the debt service principal and interest to support the numbers on my spreadsheet. And then going forward for every year, you'll notice the detailed information that reconciles with the numbers I just provided. In 2019, we refunded. In 2019, we refunded our 2013 GO bond, and it resulted in just over $450,000 savings. So that will be coming off our debt for next year. You'll also, I wanted to bring up that in 2019, we're going to be refunding the 2012 series bond. We'll be closing on that bond in January. We're putting that together right now, and that's an estimated savings of just over $750,000. So those two refunding will substantially reduce our report for next year and the reduction for our long-term debt. Plus, the fact that we've made payments for one more year will lower the principal and the interest due on the debt service worksheet you see before you.
I have a question before you go on.
Yeah.
You mentioned 400 and some odd thousand for next year. So are you talking about next school year or this school year that's leading into 2020?
We refinanced it in 2019, and the reduction in the payment will begin in January of 2020.
And that's for this particular school year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead. You continue.
If you go to the Beyond the Debt report, you'll see a revenues report. In the fiscal year 2017, you'll notice that we had a total of $65,810,232. Those are based on state aid, property tax collection, and grants. In 2018 fiscal year, $63,381,617. We had a slight reduction, just over $2 million between the 2017 and 2018 fiscal year. In 2019 fiscal year, our revenue went up $68,713,652. So from the 2018 to the 2019, our revenue has gone up just over $5 million. That is due, and you'll see in the difference line there, to an increase in state aid and an increase in grants. Now you'll see that we have just shy of $1 million of reduction in property tax collection, and that's due to mostly due to the circuit breaker effect on our property tax levy. On the following page, I provided an expense report. You'll notice that at the end of 2017, we had a labor expense of $54,379,003. It was reduced in 2018 fiscal year down to $52,582,434. And another reduction at the end of the fiscal year of 2019 of $48,656,612. So every year we're reducing our labor costs, and I anticipate those to go down as well for the following year. We've had some other reductions. Our turf was reduced, we'll report this time next year with the same data. On the following pages, you'll notice the Form 9 report. This is required to be submitted to the DOE that provides the information I provided for the payroll and the labor report. So that data is reported to reconcile with my report. And I can send this out electronically if you would like.
You finished?
Yes.
Okay, I have 7 questions, but I'm going to allow the board members if they have any questions first, because I have at least 6 questions. Any board members have any questions? Okay, since we don't have any questions, okay, Ms. Carter.
I do have a question. I'm looking for, and actually one of the questions that I sent Dr. Pete to share with you, we want to understand, or we would like to see a plan to reduce cost. And you have not shown us that as of yet. And I also want to ask, are you familiar with Gateway?
Yes, absolutely. Most of my reports I submit on Gateway. And there's also a detailed deficit reduction plan that I believe that the board has been provided. It was put together some time ago. But if you'd like, I can forward that over to you. So that's been released already.
It has
Okay.
been released.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you've been on Gateway lately. So I was on Gateway,
Okay.
and I was able to pull up that our debt, the debt on Gateway does not resemble the numbers you presented to us starting from 2018. The number I pulled up off of Gateway states that our debt is $136,862,456. So the reason I bring that up is because it would appear you have not really presented all the numbers according to our debt. And we represent our city. We represent our community. When we ask these questions, it's not because we're just trying to get the information for ourselves. We're asking because we actually represent a body of individuals that want to be informed honestly and truthfully.
These are honest and truthful information. Now, I will say, today I was at a finance workshop down in Indianapolis, and debt is reported in 4 different ways to the state. Probably the report you're looking at is entirely different than what I'm providing.
Obviously.
It is, and it's probably a different format, and they ask us to submit it in all different ways. So I would have to look at what you are looking at to be able to say, I don't think we're comparing apples to apples. It's one of the legislative initiatives that the governor talked about today, was trying to reduce the requirements of reporting on schools, specifically in the administration office. And one of them is, and was spoke about today, was why do schools report debt in 5 different ways to 5 different entities? It's something that I think should be worked on, because what you're looking at is entirely different than what you're seeing in front of you. So that is why I provided the backup documentation to go with my figures.
So, just to add to that, the one thing I love about numbers, no matter where you put them, they should still equal the same. So I also want to ask, I was looking at a report that was submitted over the weekend, and I noticed there is a contract for software, payroll software for through Lowe Associates.
Lau Associates.
Thank you. Lau Associates. Now, I saw in your report, you stated that it was a contract that we went into January the 1st of 2019. However, I was able to retrieve a copy, an actual copy of the contract. The contract we did not go into until October the 1st of 2019. And DUAB approved the contract, which actually totals $371,836. Now, I also saw, now, hold on, and this contract is good from October the 1st of 2019 through December 31st of 2020, which is next year, the upcoming year. However, I also saw we are going into yet another payroll contract starting January the 1st. Now, I know the idea is to minimize the debt and what we pay out.
Right.
However, 371 anything. And the contract, we won't even see it to its fruition. And then we're going into yet another one. And I can't imagine that this new contract will be much less than what we're already paying out. So could you please?
Oh, I would love to explain. January 1, 2020, we're going to be going with the financial system. It is Lau Associates. It has several modules where we can use HR, payroll, finances, budgeting. It has a personnel module as well, and it speaks to one another. It's a one-stop shop. We won't have to use anybody else. Presently, we're using a payroll service that doesn't integrate into our finances. So essentially, the payroll service we're using now is just a service that doesn't integrate into our finances in RDS. Now, RDS is our financial system right now. They've been our financial system for years and years and years. But the payroll system does not speak to a finance system. So we're paying a substantial amount of money for a payroll service and a full-blown financial service that is substantially more money than just going with Lao. So moving to the new payroll from the service to a full financial module where we can do all our business in one place is a savings. It's a substantial savings. So we won't be paying a payroll service and we won't be paying RDS. And RDS, they charge us for everything. It's just something that I inherited when I came here. So moving to one financial software is where we need to go, and it's a good financial decision. The staff has been training. They're very excited. They made comments to me that they can't believe it's so easy to use, and they're really excited because we're going to have financial data that we don't have right now. We just don't have it. So as far as money, we're saving money, hands down, because we're not paying two different systems that don't even speak to one another. So we're really excited in the business office.
I don't have any more questions.
I have some questions. Before I get to the other question, Ms. Rosinka, I hope you can understand why we wanted this information in writing prior to, because we've got all of these numbers that you're reading off a piece of paper and expect us to incorporate all that information and have an educated question for you. But before I forget, when you all first came here, and when Dr. Hinckley came here, it was utilizing the RDS system. And I do remember specifically when it was transitioning from the RDS system to the VIBE system, which I have a contract of the VIBE system, which that contract ends, I think, in 2021 or 2022, something like that. So that's already a contract, the VIBE.
Mm-hmm. And we canceled their contract.
Well, I don't know when it was canceled, because how could you cancel a contract? They didn't do anything wrong. But before, let me finish up first.
Okay.
When you first got me, before you came, that was RDS system. They transferred. They want to go into the VIBE system because they had some problem with the payroll. And then, like I said, that contract, I didn't know that it was canceled. I have a copy of that contract. And I don't think you can just cancel a contract because you want to go into another one. So it's my understanding that that contract is still in force, and then you, in October 2019, you wanted to go to the allowed system. So I don't see how that is saving money when you had really got into the VIBE system to understand it effectively, because there's a lot of people still learning to make that transition. Now you get into another one. So I don't see how that's saving money. But that's why I did request that we had this financial information in writing prior to. Now to my question about the money that was saved. I have several of them. The first thing you mentioned that we saved about $10 million. Now, out of that $10 million, does that include the $8.5 million IRS debt?
No, it does not.
Okay. And then you was talking about the refund, not a circuit breaker. I know one time when you said one report you gave, you said the balance was about $92 million. But with the circuit breaker not being effective 2020, you would add back about, if I'm correcting your numbers, about 26 million, which would put the debt back up to about 126, which is consistent with the gateway of $136 million debt. So
I would have to look at that report. Lorona, do you?
Well, I mean, this report that you gave us, and you also had it in the Crusader, which I brought to your attention a couple months ago, and it wasn't quite bad enough. But you did say that it'll be adding back on approximately $22 million after the circuit breaker drops off in 2020, which will put our debt back up to pretty close to $130 million. Now, the other thing is, what exactly is our operating deficit? Once the circuit breaker dropped off, right now I think you said it's about $11 million annually. So in the year 2020, what would be our operating deficit?
I don't have those figures as of yet.
Maybe you don't know this, but before you all came, the prior school board had borrowed $15 million from DUAB on 2 different occasions. The first $15 million, DUAB was taking it off the top when the school district went out and get a loan. Then they took out another $15 million. So what I want to know, what's the balance of the original $15 million that they borrowed? Or do you know that?
The common school loans?
Yeah, they borrowed $15 million and then
Right.
they may borrow another additional
They're-
$15 million.
The common school loans are listed on your detailed debt service report that I
Well, see, I
provided.
didn't have time to really go over that, you just gave it to us, that's why I would hope the next time we have a meeting, I think would be sometime in March, that we would have this prior to, I don't mean an hour before, prior to, so that we can go over these numbers, so we can have an educated question. The other question I have for you is, are we still borrowing money from DUAB?
No. Not since I've been here since April. We haven't borrowed any money.
On the October 10, 2019 DUAB meeting, you told the DUAB members that the tax collection rate in Gary was 85%. Now, I don't remember what it's ever been 85%, but where did you get that information from?
From
Tax
Mike.
collection rate.
Right, from Mike Weiser at the Lake County Courthouse. He's our auditor.
You mean James Weiser or Mike Weiser?
No, it's Mike Weiser. He provided me that data.
That the Gary's tax collection rate is 85%.
Mhm.
It's actually 85% of another number. It's not straight out 85%. And again, that is deceiving.
Well, my question to Mike was, what's our collection rate? That's what he provided to me. If you want, I can
Well,
get more
see,
information for you.
It's sort of misleading because once you say that down there.
Well, and I'm not trying to be misleading.
No, no,
I'll
no.
provide any
Let
information
me
if you're
finish.
looking
The
for.
DUAB board members was thinking if we collected that much money, then we shouldn't be in such a bad shape. That's what I'm talking about. The actual tax collection rate here, I think it's on about 42%.
So, the reason why we're not getting the revenue we need to support the district is because of the circuit breaker, not the collection. So my understanding is, as we're getting closer to the tax caps, that's the reason why we have such a reduction in our levy. You know, and that's only gonna continue unless our AV increases. There's more people are coming up to that tax cap, which means we collect less every year.
So would you give the citizens and the people that's here a true picture of what 2020 is going to look like in actuality? Because you gave them one report, but that was just to a very few people. I mean, you said the debt was going to be increased by at least $22 million, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, it's in the paper. I mean, that's what you said. I mean, I can show it to you. Because see,
Yeah,
this-
I would like that if you showed it to
Well,
me.
see, this guy, I showed it
don't
to you.
recall that being.
I don't want to be argumentative, but I showed it to you once and gave a crusade, you say you don't remember putting it in there. And then you gave us another report with a handout with what once the tax circuit breaker drop off, what it would be. As a matter of fact, it was at the last school board meeting, you said it'd be approximately $22 million. And that didn't include the $4 million that you had mentioned in the paper, so
So at the budget hearing, I presented the maximum levy we can collect and the proposed amount that we'll actually collect after the circuit breaker, and it's substantially less. We'll know more at the end of our December settlement, what will actually come in this year. But the estimate is that we should probably lose about 22 million on our 2020 budget, but that's just an estimate.
Is that a
Nobody actually knows that.
Is that a forgiveness loan?
No, it's, they give you the levy. They say that you have the opportunity to collect it, but because our taxpayers are coming up to that cap, there's no money to receive.
Okay, I have another question. If I'm not mistaken, U.S. Steel gave some money not too long ago, gave an extra amount of dollars to the city, gave it to the library board, and then gave the school system some money, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I needed to know, because I thought
That money's being held in a separate fund and has to be determined on how to be spent.
Okay.
That money was just collected and we put it in U.S. Steel fund.
Ms. Reedus is scared to ask, how much was it? How much was the U.S. Steel?
It was about $4 million.
Okay, the reason I asked that question, and I still want the audience and citizens of Gary to know, U.S. Steel is not doing what they're supposed to do. The largest land base, they own all of the land, well, let me rephrase it. They're the largest land owner in Northwest Indiana and pay less taxes than anybody. And I'm just wondering, what can we do for them to pay their fair share so we can get out of this hole? At one time, they were paying $150 million a year, opposed to paying $5 million a year now for the last, 10 years, almost 10 years. That's ridiculous. So I think our legislators need to get off their behind and, bring them to the table and see what they're going to do for the school system. They promised to put a roof on Westside High School. They have not done it. There's a problem. They promise so much they don't do nothing. And somebody needs to address these issues to U.S. Steel.
I wasn't finished, but I guess, any other questions about the board members?
I just couldn't hold it any longer.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Joseko.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move to emergency manager's report, Dr. Peter Mauricus.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to take a moment to address a couple of items first. As a human being and as a parent and as a representative of the Gary Community Schools, I am saddened. We've had some unfortunate events that have occurred. What we are facing, what's in front of us, obviously are a number of properties that are of great concern in disrepair. And what we are going to do is in January at the EM Forum on the 14th, we're going to address the community, answer questions, take input, and listen to our citizens and have folks share their thoughts. They, I believe, have a right to share their feelings and concerns, and we're going to do that. So on January 14th, 6 o'clock right here, we're going to have the emergency measure forum. We're going to listen to folks regarding facilities, both open and closed. And we'll also have our reports that evening as well, so I want to share that. Now, moving ahead, if I may, there are a lot of positive things that are happening in the Gary School. And as I've said before, the children in our district, the parents, teachers, our community, we're better than a headline. We have tremendous adults and children in our district that are working hard every day and doing some amazing things and some fantastic things. So over the course, I just finished my first year here. So over the course of the last year, I want to share some of the high points, if you will, of things that we have taken care of. Proud to say that we've expanded our preschool offerings by, when I got here, I know it was closed the Bethune School, to expanding preschool and offering it at McCullough School, so we've expanded that. We've also expanded kindergarten offerings by opening kindergarten sections at Bethune. Our middle schools, we all know that we had concerns at the middle schools last year. This year, we have two middle schools. One is Gary Middle School, which is visual performing arts. On the radio today, I was fortunate to be joined by our dance instructor, Asia, who discussed upcoming performances and things that are happening there. She mentioned the orchestra, band, choir, all of them participating in upcoming events. Gary Middle School is our STEM Academy. We have the technology. I just drew a blank on the room that we had at Boeing. I apologize. The Boeing room that was at Gary Middle School is now at Bailey, and we're offering advanced and increased STEM classes there, as well as some art and some arts opportunities for the kids there as well. McCullough School, coeducation this year. Enrollment is up significantly at McCullough School. We have begun and we are recruiting, again, Mr. Bugs, this is going to getting our citizens involved in the schools. The Buddy Project to bring citizens into our schools and become buddies and partners with the children in our schools and make those connections. We have tremendous resources here in the community as far as retired teachers, just retired folks in general, that are mom or dad that has a day off and they want to sign up to be a volunteer and come into the schools and connect with our kids. That's an opportunity. One of my big focuses this year has been to get into the community and establish relationships, partnerships, build some community trust, and we've done that through countless meetings. We still offer the Jay's Breakfast Club meetings where it's streaming Facebook Live. Ms. Carter, I believe, not the last one, but the one prior to it, you were there. It's an opportunity for anybody to come out, have a cup of coffee, have breakfast if you wish, listen to some updates, and share your thoughts and concerns. Along that line, we're still doing I was on today, WLTH. We're still doing the WLTH every other Tuesday. And that's a tremendous opportunity to share with the community some of the great things that are going on. Monthly here, WGVE, Clarence is here somewhere in the back. Here every month doing that radio show. I'm very proud to also be part of the POPS anti-gun violence program with Dr. McGee. Had a tremendous event at Westside this year, and that was phenomenal to see all of our kids come together. Next year, we had kids from other school districts attend, and this year, or next school year, I should say, we're going to expand that even more. Proud to be a part of the Gary Literacy Coalition. Ms. Clement does a fantastic job, working very hard to get books into kids' hands. Recently we had the event at the Genesis Center, and that's just a tremendous partnership, and we're working hard to help grow that as well. I would like to add that for the first time in, I understand 12 years or so, many, many years, our teachers received a pay increase. It was in the form of a stipend, but all teachers received a 1.25% pay increase, pay stipend. In addition to that, I'm also very proud of the fact that we have the Gary Schools started the ball rolling and it's forged the way for a new health insurance trust to be formed in Northwest Indiana. It's a trust of school corporations. It includes Gary, Highland, Tri Creek, which is Lowell, and North Judson. And we have other districts that wanted to participate, but they had just gone up for their insurance renewal. So next year, the thought is to expand that and grow that. And I'm so happy for our teachers and employees with the health coverage, because the insurance coverage that they are now provided is tremendously better. The co-pays are less. The prescription pay at the pharmacy is less. The monthly cost is less. But at the end of the day, it's tremendous. We have immediate access. This starts January 1. We have immediate access to health clinics. There's one in East Chicago. There's one in Maryville. There's one in Porter County. And we're looking to add here. We're talking about clinics at Westside, clinics within our buildings where our employees can access that. That's free. You make an appointment, you go in, you see a doctor or a nurse practitioner if you're comfortable with that. You give the diagnosis, you can walk out with your medications, they can do labs, and there's no cost to the employees. It's zero cost to walk out, and there's nothing out of pocket. So that's huge. We do have a number of upcoming events. Mark Spencer will be, and the Westside Theater Guild will be starting the Lion King this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, and Sunday afternoon show, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are 7 p.m. and Sundays at 4 p.m. and then the following week, corresponding dates. And that's tremendous. And I know our winter sports, our winter athletics, we were talking earlier about swimming, our boys and girls are able to swim at the Y this year. We have an arrangement with the Y. At this point in time, it's the best scenario that we could present. And I appreciate the support of the parents as they work. I know it's a process to leave school, to go to the Y, to come back and so forth, but our boys and girls are in the pool. I met with Coach, we call her Coach Tiny, today, and what she has is the fact that last year kids didn't get into the pool for several months. Now they're in the pool multiple times a week, and the Y has offered free to allow them to come to the pool on Fridays and Saturdays on their own time if they wish, at no cost. So there are a lot of great things that are happening in schools. Any comments or questions from the board?
Yes.
Yes. Who's first?
Who's first?
Mr. Coleman?
Ladies first.
Ladies first, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So I appreciate hearing all the wonderful things that are happening with the Gary School Corporation. And we are an education system, so we should be doing some positive things concerning education. However, the fact still remains, we are failing our community in a lot of areas. And those things still have to be addressed, no matter how we try to put all the sugar and icing on things. We have to be realistic about what is taking place and what's not being said. So, with that, I'm quite disappointed also that we didn't get a report from special populations. And the report that we did receive, and I'm bringing this up now because I know you would answer on her behalf, and in the report we did receive, it did not answer the questions that were submitted, such as how many students are we supporting? How many students are in, we asked for a breakdown of severe and moderate cases. What are the improvement goals? What is the biggest challenge? And how will you fix it before the end of the year? Explain the plan you have implemented to help improve the Gary Community School Corporation under your leadership. And I don't want to say the person's name. However, we have been asking for some of these things since the beginning of the year. Here we are, December, going into 2020. And one of the answers I received is complete some ongoing goals. I somewhat feel insulted. This is on a report from an educated director. I read to you some of the specific questions that were asked. Also, I guess I'll just leave that right there. I'll leave it right there and I'll yield my time for other board members.
And those directors will all be presenting at the January 14th emergency meeting. Mr. Coleman, do you have a question, sir?
What's next?
Mr. Bailey.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Dr. Maricas, are there any plans to make the proper repairs to West High School, including the swimming pool?
Well, Mr. Coleman and I were talking about that. Right now, I'll be very honest with you, is we are trying to manage our resources. Of course, we have limited resources. We're trying to keep our buildings functional and operational on a daily basis. In addition to that, we have obviously the swimming pool that needs repaired. There are roof repairs that need to be made. We have to look at our resources regarding our existing facilities that are that were for many, many years left unattended, that need to be addressed. So it's on the list of things that we need to do, but we have to prioritize that risk, Mr. Bailey. And as harsh as it is, we do the best that we can to make sure that our kids are in buildings that we don't have leaky roofs and address the plumbing concerns that affect the immediate day-to-day operation. So that use our facilities.
West Side would be a priority with the kids.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what, and I'll say this, and I shared with Mr. Coleman, I had 2 children that were swimmers in high school. I understand the importance of it. I get it. I get it. Yes, Mr.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Coleman.
I'll let you call the order, Mr. Bucks.
Okay, Mr. Coleman, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have several questions, but I'm gonna try to be brief. Okay, you mentioned the buddy program. How is that gonna, because I represent the public and the children.
Yes, sir.
And Gary Westside, I'm the president of the PTSA, and Ms. Carter is my witness that several parents have came to our meeting complaining that I don't understand how your buddy program gonna work if right now we have members, including myself, that have filled out the correct volunteer forms and everything, but when we go into these schools, we are ostracized and treated very bad.
Well, first of all,
And there's even members on here, on the board. You know, how can you fix that? How can you have a buddy program and you can't even get the volunteer form? There are parents and teachers, retired teachers, everyone that wants to help, but when they come out to help, they treat it bad. From the office all the way through.
well, first of all, I apologize if any volunteer has been treated poorly because that's not what I do. But I will tell you the solution is very simple. Once a volunteer has been cleared through background checks and so forth, it's as simple as an ID badge that they can show the school when they walk in the door.
And I'm glad you brought up ID badges. And you can ask Ms. Foster. It's hard for us to even get our badges. You go to the face liaison room, they won't even give you your badges. And there's several parents that came to several of our meetings complaining. Am I lying, Ms. Carter? Okay. I really would like for people to come out to the PTSA meetings and hear just how bad they are treated as parents and students. What's the solution?
First of all, customer service is number one. When a parent or a child, if somebody walks into our office, they deserve to be treated respectfully. I'm not going to disagree with you. Badges, solutions that have volunteers identified, that's very simple to correct.
Okay.
It's the first time that you're sharing this with me, Mr. Coleman, and I need the opportunity to correct it.
Okay, you need to speak with your principals because they know.
Oh, I understand.
Okay, and also about this pool situation. I keep hearing you referencing my name that you talked to me, but there hasn't been a solution
I just
done
spoke
yet.
with you right before.
I know
That's
that
what
you
I'm
talked to
referring
me,
to.
yes,
Yes, sir.
but there's a pool at Westside that can become workable. Why are we keep putting band-aids on things, sending the kids to the Y, which the Y is a good place. I'm not down in the Y, but it's wintertime. The children have to go to school all day. Then they have to leave and get into the cold environment, go to the Y, get out a wet pool, go back to the school in the wet conditions and cold, when there's a pool right there in the building that can be fixed. And I'm not speaking on this as myself. I'm speaking on this because this is some of the issues that the parents and students keep coming to me because I represent the public.
Yes, sir.
Nothing personal. This is for the public. And even like the coach stated that was here the last meeting, every family should have someone to know how to swim. We're in an environment, we're right on the water.
Right on.
And why is this such a hard thing? If someone just stated earlier that the U.S. still donated money and everything for the roof, for things like that, why isn't it? And then like someone brought up, why is we Westside? Right now the reason why we Westside is because the children are in the building at Westside. We're for all schools to be repaired. It makes no sense that our children are suffering when there's money out there. Maybe you need to divert the money from paying all these MGTs and the rest and invest that money into the students. What's your solution?
The school corporation does not pay MGT.
Well, whoever pays MGT, do have, I don't care.
What I'm telling you is right now, the situation we have as far as getting the kids in the pool was the best solution working together that we could come up with at the time.
They have a meet, I do believe, next week. Our students at a disadvantage with Calumet and the rest of it. It's supposed to be at Calumet. Okay, the school pool, the Y pool, it's not 12 feet deep. So we're gonna just put our children in a pool where they have never trained at, never been to. That's a disadvantage. Why are we putting our children constantly in disadvantaged situations?
Well, I would not call that a disadvantaged situation. If the pool is 9 foot at one side or 12 foot at the other, the children can swim, they have the room and be able to do that, and they have room to do their turns.
The Y do not have a diving board,
It doesn't have a diving well.
Right.
and there's several things, but the Y is a great place to be. I'm not down in the Y. Thank you, Y, for helping our children. You're doing more than the Gary Community School Corporation is doing.
Dr. Reed, let me share this. The programs that you mentioned, I think they're great. All we have to do is make them work. And you're only one person. That staff need to get up off their behinds and help you. And I'm serious. Let me share something with you. Majority of the young men that have come out to the city, have come out and gone to college on athletic scholarships, I mean hundreds, young ladies as well. And we got to keep this up because a lot of times our parents don't have the money to send our kids to college. Academics, you got to score well now on the SATs and the ACTs in order to get the presidential scholarships and things of that nature. And I know You know what I'm talking about because you said your girls. I really think that if we at Westside can get that track and that football field, and I know you can do it. I know you know how to do it. Raise that money to get that, that, and that's a turf, football field. And I'm looking forward, because I think you're doing a heck of a job. This is my personal opinion. And I think you can do it. And that's what we need. We need something where kids are proud to be on the football field, on the track field, on the baseball field, those types of things. Like Mr. Taylor said, in the swimming pools. Because we have swimming buildings that's closed down, got the diving wells, like the Wirt, like the Lew Wallace, in those schools. They got diving wells, they're not, they're closed, and I understand that. Westside has a diving well, and that pool. So if we can get those things fixed, these young people will go at it again, and we can become champions again in athletics and academics. Okay? Because I think you're doing a heck of a job, and I like the programs that you have presented to us tonight. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Dr. Marikis, I don't know if you are aware, but this month we had a scheduled meeting with Dr. Seaman, and it was the day after it had snowed, and I was there to have the meeting, and I refused to come in because the grounds hadn't been shoveled and there had been no salt put out. And we don't have any insurance, and I know no one's gonna pick my big butt up if I fall. I'm already on crutches at a disadvantage, so I refuse to make the meeting. Is there any way possible you can make sure that incident never happens again, please?
Absolutely, I was there that morning, and that's unfortunate, and we sent guys out right away to make sure the sidewalks were clear. We have to make sure we're providing a safe egress and ingress to the buildings, and that's our responsibility. That's unacceptable in any building. In any building. I apologize for Mr. Bailey.
Thank you.
I have one more question. According to House Bill 1315, and actually it's on page 11 and it's under 5. I know you don't, do you have it with you? Okay, great. I asked this question at our last meeting, and I've been listening for you to answer the question from the last meeting. If you take a look at 5.
What page were you on?
Page 11.
Okay.
Number 5, plan specifying how the school corporation will work directly with the city of Gary. This is under one of your things to do as emergency manager. And so as you stated earlier, you have been in this position for a year. So now we will be going into year number 2. We will also have a new mayor in January. So I have not heard anything concerning a plan that will be shared with the city of Gary, because I do believe that if we are going to truly see success, there should be some collaboration that includes the city of Gary. We cannot do this on our own. We have not been successful. These are the results. So, do you have a plan in place? Is there one coming? I would like for you to answer this. You did not answer it the last time, 3 months ago. So I would appreciate something from you today and how to address this if you are going to address it.
I'll answer your question this way. Since I've arrived, I have worked with the city on many different situations. We do know that there will be a change coming in January. And I've had a brief conversation with Mr. Prince, and we will work to put a plan together. And I'm sure as it transitions in and we get closer appointed, we will have a certain plan that we will, I believe, will elevate the city, elevate the schools, elevate our children. And I look forward to working. That's the answer I can give you this evening, Ms. Carter.
That's it.
Now, Pete, wait.
Yes, sir.
I have some questions. I'll just wait till the board finish. I have about 5. I'm gonna try to make it brief. Since this is Christmas, I wanna be here at Christmas Eve. Number one, you mentioned about the teachers got a raise or something. That stipend, I think, was about $500.
I think it was closer to 600.
Okay, closer to 600. Now, realizing that they haven't had a raise in about 13 years, and every school district around this area has had incremental raises. East Chicago just got a 3% raise just recently. So how are you going to address that problem that I was speaking about earlier, to provide our children a quality education with no teachers? You're definitely not going to get them with that very low salary, because after they federal taxes, state taxes, and other incidentals taken out, they operate at poverty level. So nobody's going to come to this district also with the condition of the school building leaking. So that's the first question.
Well, the first question is, our beginning teachers are right at 40,000, just a little bit above, which is not too far off from the other. Could it be better? Should it be better? Absolutely. We are looking at incentive bonuses and other ways through Title funds to help offer additional stipends and bonuses to staff in hard-to-fill areas, your maths, your sciences, and some special education and so forth.
Okay, the next one is as an advisory board, this is to you and Ms. Rosenko. You're receiving approximately $4 million from U.S. Steel. Now, this was not money that was in your budget. This is money that you're getting, that you can use as needed. So I would suggest, we would advise that the school board, that the pool be fixed at Westside with that money, $4 million, that you get school uniforms and band equipment with that money, that you fix those leaks at the roof, because some of those leaks that Attorney Tony Walker took pictures of in 2019 was the same leaks that I took a picture of in March 2017 that has not, I repeat, has not been repaired. The same leaks. So with that $4 million that you didn't have until, you can take it and take care of that immediately. The other thing is, we talked about finances. At the last DOEP board meeting, Ms. Carter and I attended, Ms. Ileana was given approval of 4 agencies for contracts for the special population, which total over about $1.2 million. One of the board members asked who was going to sign off on it. And they said, DOEP said, we want to leave it to them. So Ms. Carter and I had to try to get a meeting with Ms. Ileana to find out exactly, because I did my research, and some of those agencies that she got a contract for had overlapping responsibilities. Plus one of them, a couple of them I think is out of Florida, where MGT is housed. And one is, I think, Denver, Colorado, one is in Annapolis. So we wanted to know how many students was going to take advantage of that $1 million for that year for that contract. She got out of the meeting, she left the meeting, so we still didn't get an answer. So we talked about finance, a lot of money that we think could be in, shall I say, not spent wisely because had not been transparent with us. And the other one is speaking about the pool, if you're going to train a student to be a contender in academic, just like having a professional baseball team doing that practice on a little league field, it's not going to benefit the athlete at all. At all. But the most important thing I wanted to know also is, does MGT have an exit date? I just started asking questions so I can summarize this.
I do know the contract is up for renewal, so at this point, that's the only information I have, sir.
Okay. The other The other issue is, which I would like to get an answer to, is that the $4 million, will you commit to repair that pool, bring back the regulation operation at West Side School with $4 million, get the band new equipment and uniforms, and provide some money for teachers for supplies in their classroom, because they're underpaid, overworked. They should not have to come out of pocket to buy supplies to educate our children. Now, we talk about $4 million that you all shouldn't be taking to do something else with, because there's an identified immediate need now that MGT keeps saying, we don't have the money, now you have the money. So that money, I understand Mr. Rachel said, we gotta figure out where we wanna spend it and where we wanna put it. And that should be a no-brainer, because we've identified where it could be used like tomorrow. So those are just some of the questions I would like an answer to tonight about that money.
The money is currently in the bank, if you will, and there's no plan to expend any of that cash at this time. I don't feel that it would be the most responsible thing to do at this moment.
Wait a minute, I don't mean to be facetious, Dr. Pete.
Well,
You've been given some money, it's not long, you've been given some money by U.S. Steel. We have students, we have a band with a band director and everything, and students in a band that got uniforms that are torn and tattered that was purchased in 1974 and 75. We got equipment that I took pictures of and showed it to you all that are broken. And you got a classroom that's still leaking when it rains. And you got the money sitting in the bank trying to figure out where to spend it. I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm just being realistic. I think if I had a parent or a student in school, I would want to know why is the money sitting in the bank and my child is being subjected to an unsafe environment.
what is your understanding of the money, Mr. Bugs? Is it?
The understanding of the money, the library got.
Let me finish my question. Is it advance on taxes, which would have been paid, or is it, or are you viewing it as?
Okay, the money, as far as the school corporation, that has nothing to do, the money's in advance to the city. But what the city gave some to the library, $1 million to the library, and $4 million to the school corporation, is not contingent on you paying anything back. That's a gift to you. So you don't have to worry about it being paid back. That's between the city and U.S. Steel. It's to you to use as needed, at your discretion. And we've identified some emergencies that could be taken care of, so it should be like a bureaucracy to try to figure out what to do with it. But you don't have to pay it back. This money that's available that you could use immediately. And I just want to know, why can't it be used immediately? I think the citizens would want to know.
Right now, there's not a plan to expend that money. We need to maintain it, we need to hang on to it.
Well, what do you intend to do with that? Just hang on to it, get interest, or what?
Well, right now, we need to come up with a solid plan on how to expend and what to do with those resources.
Well, our suggestion that we just gave you is not being considered, or?
Everything is being considered, Mr. Bucks. Everything is.
Mr. President.
Okay, well, I see I'm not going to get an answer, but I do have one other thing to say. By the next board meeting, I think it's in March sometime,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to request for the full time that each board member receive a full packet, including the financial report and all reports in writing a week prior to the meeting, so we have time to review them and identify any questions or clarification that we may need. Number two, that they should be delivered to each board member as they was in the past. And the reason I say that is because the security officer was making less money then and make a difference in it. There's only 7 board members, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time to drop a packet off. And also, since we meet every 3 months, we have requested that we get the same material for each month. And we've never gotten it. Because what are we going to do for the months in between? We requested that from you several times, and we need it.
Packets were available in the office for you to pick up, as well as electronically delivered to you on Friday, which is 5 days before today's meeting. So,
Dr. Pete, I'm being very respectful, but
so am I.
we said, it was said, and I'll say it one more time very slowly.
I don't need you to repeat it.
We should not, as advisory board members, have to come to your office to pick up information that by law, 1350, that you're supposed to provide anyway, prior to the meeting.
I am providing
It has
it to
never
you
happened
Friday
before.
before the meeting, as well as available electronically.
No, we're not trying to come out, try to print it out on our own computer.
That's
at
why
our
we
own
have
expense.
packets available for you in the office, sir.
No, they're supposed to be delivered to us, Dr.
No, sir,
Pete.
they're available to you in the office.
So you were deviating away from policy.
Since I've been here, and even Dr. Hinckley had not, to my knowledge, had packets delivered to them.
Well, Dr. Hinckley, we did get some prior to the meeting with Dr. Hinckley.
They will be
We made it
available
out
in the office
disagreement
on the
with
Friday before the board meeting.
They burned Friday.
They will be available in the office as well as electronically to you on the Friday before the board meeting,
Well,
which is
Dr.
5 days.
We're gonna have an issue with that because we shouldn't have to come to your office to pick up board packets. No, that,
Thank you.
I have one other.
Mr. Coleman has one other question, Dr. Pete.
Do the Gary Community School Corporation have anything to do with the Brick Center?
Yes, this is one of our buildings, yes, sir.
Okay. I represent all students, and anyone in this building right now, this temperature is terrible. What about the students, like the Roosevelt students and other students that have to come here every day? Now, if you all knew that there was going to be a meeting here tonight, why couldn't you all have the temperature correct? It is freezing in here. And if the Gary Community School Corporation is responsible for, like you just said, have something to do with this building, why can't you all just take care of the simple stuff? I don't understand. What's your solution?
I will find out, I will talk to maintenance in the morning, find out what happened with the heat.
But what about the students, like the Roosevelt students that come here all the time, that's in these bays? What about them? The temperature, and it hasn't got cold yet.
Right.
What's the solution?
We've had the building walkthroughs here. We've had a number of folks that have done it, and if there's a concern or an issue with the temperature, it is adjusted. But we've not had issues, sir. Thank you.
Are there any more questions from board members? Thank you, Dr. Pete. Okay, public participation, Ms. Carter. By the way, if there's someone came in after the time to sign up for the little slip, if you have something that you want to speak about or to address, please feel free to go to the microphone because you will be allowed to voice your opinion.
I want to go back one more, if I may, one more time to the USD or the tax money that was received. That tax money is one-time resources, money that we need to use. In fact, it was in advance, if you will, sir. And we need to be responsible with it and how it's used.
Okay, Dr. Pete, very briefly. USDO came to the city of Gary and knew that they was in dire financial strait. They told them, you're gonna have a tax fraud coming in. So until that time, what I will do, I will loan you $20 million. You don't have to worry about paying it back. But for me loaning this money to you, I want you to give me a 25-year tax break. So the city identified 2 or 3 city departments with school the school and the library are not city departments, but other entities that they would give some money to. They gave $1 million to the library to use as it saw fit. $4 million was made available to the school corporation. So I know what it is and the source of it. My point is, it was given to you to use as you saw fit. So to try to say that some contestant try to stir up and confuse the people, that's an insult to us. You can use the money as you see fit. I know where it came from and the purpose of it.
Was an advancement from U.S. Steel for future improvements they're going to be doing to their building, and it was an arrangement that the city made to be able to give that money in advance. And the arrangement was that if they didn't do the improvements, we would not have to return the funds back to U.S. Steel. It
What
was a way to
improvements?
help the city
What improvements are you speaking about, ma'am?
that they're going to be doing at U.S. Steel.
No, you're very confused. This has nothing.
No.
U.S. Steel said they had $700 million that they was going to do with their infrastructure within their property.
Right.
This $20 million was given to the city of Gary as a loan. When the city of Gary distributed to different entities, the receiving entity had no obligations about to paying it back or how to use it.
It's
Well, don't-
money,
don't try to
it's
confuse
money
the
we
people.
would have received if they were assessed later on for the improvements that they're going to be providing.
That has
And
nothing.
I can provide the documentation to you.
Well, I would like to
In
see
fact,
it.
I
Well-
would like to do that so there could be clarity on the money. It's an advancement in property tax money.
That was
So-
to that had nothing to do with library, that was to the city of
Well,
Gary. What the city
and I
gave
can
you.
provide that to you, so you'll be aware of that.
Well, ma'am, I'm on the library board. We received $1 million. It didn't come within any restrictions of what you had to do. It's just the same money.
There's no repayment due back to us if they don't make
Well,
us.
I said you don't have to repay it, so if you're trying to confuse it, you're saying the same thing that I'm saying. You don't have to repay it. It's money that was given to you to use as you please. The agreement between the city and U.S. Steel has nothing to do with the Gary Community School Corporation. You can use that money as you see fit.
I asked you earlier about the 4 million, and you said it's in the bank. Nobody
It
said.
is. It is.
Yeah, but see, it's for the school system to use as their discrepancy.
Right.
That's all. All we've been asking, let's repair a swimming pool and these types of things with the 4 million. That's what's been asked. I don't see what's the big problem.
So what repairs are you talking about?
I'll tell you what, I would like to, as Rosiko said, provide you with the documentation to show you, here's the money, here's its purpose, and here's why you're
Please
getting it.
do. Please do.
I would like to do that.
I will come out and get that tomorrow because it's different from the entity that we received on the library board. So they didn't give any stipulation to making repairs, because how would they know what repairs you need to make? No, that's confusing, you know. No. That's an insult. Plain and simple. Public participation. Vice President.
For public participation, you would have 3 minutes. Ernest Walton Jr.
Okay, so I understand the board is here and listened to everything everybody has had to say. And I've been listening about Gary Community Schools, you know, just really the whole system is failing us. You know, like you asked them to provide certain information on paper and they say that they will, and how frustrated you have been that they have not cooperated and we are unable to make these improvements that everybody wants. I'm frustrated to hear all of this. You know, and I understand why Gary School Administration, you know, there's many people there, it's the same people you know, I don't know what they're doing with their money. Are they taking our money? I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but they've been working here for so long, maybe they're not being honest about where the money is going, where it's coming from. And then also about special education, like you asked about, you know, finances, where's that money going? I've asked the same question as well, and they're not giving me the information that I asked for. It's just like you're not getting information that you asked for. I have a daughter who is on the basketball team, and that's great. But one thing is sad. She doesn't have an interpreter. Like today, she didn't have an interpreter. She did for practice, but she didn't have an interpreter at the game. So my daughter did talk to the special education teacher and said, why is there not an interpreter here? And she said, well, an interpreter is only going to be at practice, but not at the game. I mean, how can we get that kind of an answer from a special education teacher? I think she's failing us. You know, the superintendent and some of the staff, I think there's just no communication between them. Because I was wondering why my daughter didn't have an interpreter. From time to time, she's without an interpreter. Last week, we had an interpreter that didn't show up just during the school day. Did you get any information about that, of why we didn't have an interpreter? Did you look into that? It's just really sad. And I think they're still not hiring certified sign language interpreters, and that is so very sad. I'm asking you why, and I have been so patient, really since 2015, for my daughter. I've been so patient. That's been too long, you know? And I think we have, as parents, a right to express our concerns. And so what are the parents to do? Where's the money going? Are there things that they don't care about? You know, are we not primarily concerned about our students' education and how they're doing? I understand teachers aren't getting paid enough, but I bet you those in administration are making good money. Anyway, it's pretty sad. And so for next year and beyond, I really hope that Gary Schools would stop trying to change transferring teachers amongst all different schools and moving everybody around. I think that needs to stop. Because you have students that say, oh, I miss that teacher. Why did she go off to that school? And they're just moving them around. I mean, I don't know. Is she brown-nosing something, or are they trying to cover something up? What are the reasons teachers are being a little shifted around? I don't know what's going on. You know, Lisa, my financial person, doesn't know. She didn't have a whole lot of information, I don't think. Wow. And so I would ask Lisa, is she responsible for the funding of special education and grants? Do you have any information? And if you do, could you please provide that to the board? Because I would like some of that information as well. And there's other special education parents that want that as well. I mean, there's no offense at all.
Time. Excuse me, we meet every 3 months. And if a parent, especially this parent, has been trying to get information every time he's come here, so if they got 6 minutes every month, then they should have 18 minutes. So I don't think that anybody has the right to say what is time in this meeting as long as I'm president. This is the advisory board meeting, and if a parent got something they want to say, wants y'all to know, then they have a right to say it at this meeting. So I will determine the time, okay? Next speaker.
The next speaker, Cozy Weatherspoon.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Pete. I want to address the elephant in the room. Okay, something I've heard nothing about. First, I'd like to start off with a letter that was written by